I'm Jason Spellbring, the Associate Artistic Director for the Lyric Repertory Company, and welcome to Behind the Design. This series will showcase the talented designers behind Lyric Rep's main stage productions. In today's episode, we will be chatting with Nancy Hills and Dennis Hassan and get an inside look from their designs from the 2020 summer season. Nancy, you are a regional and nationally recognized costume historian. Your designs are really spectacular. I just want to talk a little bit about where your passion for costume design, history, and all of that, and what has it led to for you as a designer? What are some things that have come out of it?
Well, I was one of the nerdy kids in high school who I loved watching old movies. And I started connecting like the old pictures of my mom and my mom's sisters and their aunts and uncles to the pictures of them to these movies I watched. And then I realized, oh my gosh, the clothes are similar. The first time I took a historic clothing class was when I was in graduate school. And it was like, ooh, I have found my people. Yeah. It was like, this is a study. I can focus in on this. And then I started really trying to be as fine-tuned as I could when the historical time of the piece required that.
Yes.
So, and that's what I really have capitalized on. And I've been teaching historic clothing every year, and I've been working on it and adding to it and building it.
And Nancy, may I ask, like, with this passion and this skill, how did that translate to your design for Brighton Beach Memoirs? Unfortunately, the show that was designed and ready to go and then postponed, and then the season was canceled. Right. So our audience members are going to be seeing your designs for the first time. So how did your influence and your passion for historic costumes, how did you lend it to this production?
Well, I really wanted it to have the essence of 1937 in Brighton Beach. And so I really did a lot of really fine tuning as far as looking at photographs of people from New York, from Brighton Beach, that area in like the late 20s and early 30s, so that you're not, because nobody, all those practical people have things that they've used for years.
Right.
So I tried to introduce those kinds of things.
How do you keep that passion alive, Nancy? How does your passion for clothing and costuming, how do you keep it alive, throughout a very, very stellar career?
I every time I read a play, I just kind of let my imagination run wild, and then I start doing homework on that. And it's the most fun that I have.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't have to kindle anything. It's just I have to kind of hold back sometimes.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. It really was tickled. I'm really tickled that you did this, because we loved when Dennis and Bruce and I and Adrian first met. We just felt like this was a treasure that we're really looking forward to sharing. And so sharing it this way is a good second place.
You're here as the set designer for Brighton Beach Memoirs. But before we even get to that, what is your history with the Lyric Repertory Company and USU? And tell us that story.
Well, I've had a long history with the Lyric. As a matter of fact, I came into theater a big part because of the Lyric. My introduction to theater was really seeing the professionals on the stage, and in particular seeing how they would change character from play over the summer. And that fascinated me. And in high school, I got involved with theater, and then I went to Utah State. First was an actor, but I also had a passion for art and working with my hands.
Yeah.
And so I was encouraged to go into design. And so I changed over to design. And what's very interesting is my senior project in undergrad was actually designing this exact show.
So can you talk about, specifically for Brighton Beach, what were the early stages like that led to the set that is the model behind you?
It's a difficult one because, this is Neil Simon's masterpiece, his trilogy, and it's one of 3 plays. It's actually the same set in the first and the third play. And it calls for a lot of levels, and we had a lot of discussion about that, whether we want to cut down the levels and do it all on one level. But the problem with that is you can't see.
Yeah.
The bedroom gets too far upstage. You can't see the action that's going on in there because there is simultaneous actions.
Yeah.
A lot of times we see people downstairs while people are upstairs. And so you really need that four separate rooms in space. And also we wanted to really convey, we don't always do realism, but this is his memoir, and Neil's memoir of his youth. And it's a realistic place. It's a real place that exists, and this really did happen. Of course, there's a lot of artistic license in it.
Sure.
So it's semi-autobiographical is what they say. But that's another thing I really love. Sometimes I love to do very stylized sets, but this is a realistic set that will have, real furniture, real lace doilies, real everything in them.
So when it comes to that, is the set designer responsible for producing and suggesting furniture for it, textures of wall, color palettes? Is that your job as a set designer when you're speaking to the director about what you can offer in terms of what you've come to the conclusion of your design with?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that will guide that. Certainly historical colors and historical wood in this case. And there's a lot of arts and crafts feel. This house isn't new during the time. It's got a little age to it. And so that patina, that kind of rusticated patina that goes throughout. And there'll also be lace doilies and, trying to capture the feeling and mood as if you were really there with those members of that family.
The lyric space, it really is a space that your history with it is really touching. It's lovely to see how long you've been able to be connected to that space, and now you're designing for it, not just for Lyric, but for Utah State Theater, and you're mentoring other young designers and learning the tricks of that space. So thank you.
Lyric is very close to my heart, and it always will be and always has been.
Yeah.
So, and I love seeing what you guys are doing. So
yeah, and we love seeing you on the very first episode of Behind the Design, which we hope to see many more of, and hopefully you again on it in years to come. So
okay. Well, thank you
so much for your time, Dennis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Our next episode of Behind the Design will feature designers John Savage and Spencer Potter. We'll see you then.